Today in the Diz List, we discuss the top 5 moderate and value resorts at Walt Disney World.
Welcome to the Diz List, the podcast that ranks everything in Walt Disney World. I'm Nick.
And I'm Rob, and welcome to episode 31, where we discuss the top 5 moderate and value resorts at Walt Disney World.
Before we get to the list, if you haven't checked us out on social media, at DizListPod at pretty much everywhere you want to go, social media-wise. We really enjoy it when people will give their top 5 right after we've released the show. So please comment and let us know, what you think and whether you agree or disagree. We love to get back and forth and give some back and forth in those discussions, and it's a lot of fun.
You know what else is a lot of fun? eBay.
Oh, I was on there the other day. I won an auction. It was $125, and I got a jar of authentic Splash Mountain water. Can you believe it? $125, that's all it was.
I hate to tell you, but I just turned on the faucet in my bathroom, and that was me.
Can you believe these people?
Yeah.
Like, you're putting your hand into that water where there's a ton of pinch points. You're lucky you didn't lose a hand.
Yeah.
Secondly, it's water, folks. It's water.
I don't know how you can prove that.
You can't.
That's kind of my joke is go to your faucet, fill up a bell jar and send it to somebody.
Yeah. So you know that I collect baseball cards, right? My son and I collect cards. eBay has an authentication service. So like when you sell a card and claim that it is, whatever, right? And it's not slabbed by PSA, it's not like something that's already been previously authenticated. eBay puts it through its own authentication process. How do they do that with Splash Mountain water?
They take the camera from the inside of the ride and they have to find the exact video of you scooping the water out. And that comes as the certificate of authenticity.
So here's the thing. Some of the stuff that's up on eBay is a joke, and I get that, and it's very funny to read the listings, and some of them are hilarious.
Yeah.
But other ones are like legit. People thinking they're going to make money. I saw one guy had it in Ziploc bags. Like, who carries a bunch of Ziploc bags and drapes them over the side of the boat?
Oh my God.
I don't know.
Anyway, so yeah, Splash Mountain's last ride was last Sunday?
Yeah, it was right. Well, we record on Sundays, and it was that evening. I think 1 o'clock, people finally got out of the park.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Because if you get in line for a ride, you can stay in that line until you've gone through the ride. Isn't that how it works?
Yeah, they ended up having like a wall of cast members to basically protect the last riders or whatever. It was pretty insane. We got some podcast friends who were down there. Johnny J from DMSW was down there. I think it's cool. I wish I could have gone on it one more time. I'm excited for Tiana, but I'll tell you what else I'm excited for. Tron.
Oh, yeah. So the sign went up this week.
Yeah.
And caused some controversy.
Yeah. So I need everybody to step back from the ledge and realize
I know what you're going to say.
That all through eternity, essentially, until the last, 10 years maybe?
Yeah.
Attractions were sponsored.
I think there were still a couple. I think Spaceship Earth still was.
I will go listen.
Oh, and Test Track. Yeah.
There's a damn
That's Chevrolet
Chevy dealership at the end of it. So I don't know why people are freaking out about Enterprise sponsoring that ride.
You go to Epcot in the 80s, I remember, we're from Western New York, and that's kind of the home of Kodak. So for me, it was kind of cool. You'd go to Orlando and go to the Imagination Pavilion, and there's Kodak. That's that's our company. It's kind of so it was kind of an exciting thing, and I don't know. But my point is, who cares? Well, there's a logo. It's helping to fund something that's awesome.
You just said the words. It's helping to fund.
Yeah.
Which means perhaps, now I don't think this is necessarily the case, but perhaps it won't cost as much, right?
I hope.
I mean, maybe that's one way that they're able to keep the prices at a certain... I know it's ridiculously expensive.
Right. And here's another crazy thought. Put that money towards cast members.
Yeah.
They're negotiating a contract right now.
They need it. They don't get paid well. and the slave labor that is the college program.
I know. It's too bad. I mean, the cast members there, I mean, I can't even off the top of my head think of a bad interaction that I've had with a cast member.
No, me neither.
I'm sure there's one or two. I mean, they're not perfect, but, I would say 99% of every cast member I have ever interacted with has had a big smile, or at least, I don't know, has just been accommodating,
Yeah. So at the beginning, we said before we started recording, we didn't really have much for the top, and now we got talking. I've got a ton of things that just came in my mind.
We'll go for it. We got time.
Did you see that they lowered the prices for lightsabers and for droids?
I did. I didn't see what they lowered them to, but I'm a sucker who paid full price for the droid the year it opened. Which was a cool experience, by the way. I'll talk about that another time.
I was talking to Mikey, and he basically said,
"What's up, Mikey?"
He said, or I said to him, because he had sent me a story, I was like, it's because all the rich people are dried up. Like, you only buy one droid. You're not buying 8 of them. And the same thing for Galactic Star Cruiser. Well, there's a limited color of lightsabers, too.
Yeah. So then they've kind of moved the marketing towards, well, now we have, what's the Kestis guy? Cal Kestis?
Yeah.
My son's yelling at me right now because that's one of his favorites. Like, they're bringing characters from all
different hilts.
Facets. Like, the character I'm talking about, if you're not familiar, is from the video games.
Right, yeah.
He only exists in that video game world right now. But I don't know, he's cool. My son likes playing as him, and he's a good character. But, like, what is the percentage of people, maybe a big percentage, I don't know, who play that Star Wars video game and want / subgroup again who can afford subgroup again who can afford to get there and buy it?
Yeah.
Like, that's such a small subset of people.
And carry that thing through the park all day.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But I just think that it is a good sign that maybe Disney realizes, okay, we maybe priced some people out.
Yeah.
Let's try to fix this. But
well, that's cool, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, go Disney.
Yeah. We're going to head off to the Skills Halftime Show now, you think?
Yeah, we might as well. What's the theme for today's show again?
Oh, what the? You got... Stitch is covering Elvis.
You got it.
So this week, we're going to rank the top 5 moderate and value resorts or hotels, even the heartbreak kind. We'll see you after the Skittles Halftime Show.
So in order to get our podcast started, we needed some way to get it out for everybody to hear. So what we decided to do was go online and look around and try to find someone who can distribute our podcast to all the main services for us. We did a little research and we found that the best one was Anchor. Now, Anchor's a Spotify company, and Spotify is something that I use every day, but it also goes to other platforms. It's an easy way to make a podcast, and everything is right there in the app. So, for example, Anchor has tools that you can record, edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. If you don't have any professional editing software, you can do it right there on your phone. When you host your podcast on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on all the different listening platforms. I do Spotify, but you can also do Apple Podcasts and many more. Okay, students, let's review. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. If you don't have all the equipment and all the computer editing software, you can do it right on your phone. And the best part is, it's free, like free, which is great for sure. Go and download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Go for it.
Welcome back from the Skittles Halftime Show with Stitch covering Elvis.
Well, Stitch ended up eating all the other members in his band.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, it was weird.
So this week we're going to kind of finish off our 2-part series on ranking the top 5 resorts. We did deluxe resorts last week, and then this week moderate and value kind of lumped in together.
I'm kind of excited about this one.
Okay.
And I think a lot of people may look at this and go, moderate and value resorts, like, I don't know, like, I don't make millions of dollars. We've stayed at a lot of these resorts. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I mean, but value is
I know
kind of subjective when you're talking.
I know. But then again, we can have a whole other episode about DVC and how with your DVC payments, you can essentially pay a similar price to a moderate with owning DVC. We'll get back to that, though.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, I'm excited about this list. I'm going to get right into it first.
Sounds good. Let's go.
My first one is, I think this is actually the first place we ever stayed. This is my number 5. And this is the first actual Disney resort that we stayed at, because obviously I've gone for years and we've stayed with family, and we stayed at, I always forget what it's called. I always want to call it Cub Cadet, and my wife laughs at me.
Cub Cadet?
Yeah, and
you
she's
stayed
like,
at a
"Wait a minute,
lawnmower place?
That's the lawnmower company?" No, it's Bonnet Creek, but for some reason, and if my wife's listening...
How did you get
I
Cub
don't
Cadet
know.
out of that?
Every time I go right to Cub Cadet, and I don't know.
All right.
My brain is weird. Bonnet Creek we stayed at before we actually stayed at this place, and it's we end up staying at All Star Sports. So the All Star Hotel, there's 3 of them. There's All Star Sports, All Star Music, and All Star Movies. So we ended up touring all 3 of them, but my kids are pretty sporty, and I'm definitely a music guy. And All Star Movies one has, they had Mighty Ducks, and they have 101 Dalmatians, and they have Toy Story. They have all these different fun themes. So if you have younger kids, I think that's All Star Movies is a good one for you to go to. All Star Music was kind of fun. Giant cowboy boot. They had kind of a jazz section that I thought was kind of cool. I don't know how many kids are going to be into jazz music, but that section was cool. But with my younger kids, they're very sporty, so we stayed at All Star Sports. And the coolest thing there, and I know there's a lot of haters on All Star Sports, I am not one of them. I didn't hate it. So you walk in, excuse me, you take a left, and they have kind of the football area, right? And that football area has a full, well, I don't know if it's probably not full size as far as width, but length is. And they have like X's and O's and like routes that you can run. And I think we actually had a football. We were throwing the football around. It was a lot of fun. So I really enjoyed that. Do I want to go back and stay there again? Probably not. The room was very small. The room was very motel-like. It wasn't horrible. It was clean and it did its thing, but we were packed in there like sardines. Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on that, or do you want to talk about it later? Or
no. So
is it your number 1?
No,
I don't want to spoil it.
So the All Stars aren't for me. Here's why. I don't get the over the top theming, which is actually going to be shocking because there is one on my list that has over the top theming.
I love over the top theming.
But see, I like the more subtle hints of it. I also don't understand the idea of paying that much money to stay in essentially a Motel 6.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
And I think Disney could do a better job inside the rooms. They do so well with it's literally over the top theming. I mean, it's ridiculous.
And I think inside the rooms it was maybe 2 Disney or 2 maybe Mickey Mouse. It was like Mickey Mouse baseball type decor in the inside, if I remember, because we were back in the baseball section.
The other reason I don't know that I would like it is because it seems like every time you go to Disney, there's like, and I have no problem with this, but there's groups of like teens and kids that are going as
yes,
and so like
I'm glad you brought that up.
I want to go on vacation. I teach kids. I want to go on vacation away from the entire Eastern Seaboard baseball teams.
Well, I didn't even know that, and we luckily did not run into that because when we were there, it was in the summertime.
Right.
I mean, there still could be. I mean, it could be a full football team there, but I guess they do a lot of the big cheerleading competitions there, and through the South. If we have any listeners who are like in the area around Texas, cheerleading is huge.
Well, they also host. They also host the like spring training prep because like when I was coaching baseball, we went to Myrtle Beach, but one of the things that I was always tried to sell me on was let's go to Disney, and one that's way too much for our little high school on a school bus driving down to.
And do you want to be dealing with your baseball players and trying to be in your favorite place in the world?
Yeah, I don't want to
You don't want to merge those
I don't
two
want to
worlds.
merge those 2 worlds. Yeah, I'm totally good with compartmentalizing. But so they do have a lot of like team stuff there, And I think for me, because of the fact that I'm with and around other people's kids all the time, I think that would just be over the top. But I can totally see why you like it.
Yeah, well, we really enjoyed it. My kids liked it a lot too. Would I stay there again? Probably not. Okay. I think the other negative I have was it's kind of far away. So it's further from a lot of the resorts. It's kind of in the, I don't want to say the southern tier. It's kind of a weird word to describe Disney property, but it's down kind of near Animal Kingdom, down by that area. It's a little further south, but so anyway, my point is it takes a little longer to get to some of the resorts, not all of them.
Yeah.
That's all. So that's my number 5. What'd you have for 5?
So my number 5 is one that I believe you've stayed at. No, I know you've stayed at. My number 5 is the Caribbean Beach Resort.
Yeah, I've stayed at most of these, honestly.
So the Caribbean Beach Resort is the largest. That's, I think, the biggest drawback. It's actually the largest. There's 200 acres. Like, that's a huge, massive resort. But the reason I like it, and I put it at 5, is the theming is kind of true to style, right? I mean, it is what, like, they're trying to go for the Caribbean feel. So you've got, like, was it Trinidad is one of the neighborhoods, and Martinique and Barbados, and but the big thing is you're on the Skyliner.
Oh, and there's 2 different Skyliner stops at this resort.
Yeah, like that. I mean, the fact that you are a Skyline ride away from, Epcot, just let's hop over to Epcot really quickly. Or
it was great.
Hollywood Studios.
Yeah, it's great to just be that close to Epcot and Hollywood Studios. I think when we stayed there, and I may talk about this a little bit later, but I don't think we had a car. I think that was a trip where we just relied on Disney transportation.
I'll be honest with you, too. Another thing that puts it up there for me is the fact that there aren't a ton of resorts, and I don't know why Disney does this, but there really aren't a ton of resorts where you can get 5 sleepers, like you can sleep 5 people. But there are 5th sleeper at Caribbean Resort, which some of them don't. And if you have 3 kids, what do you do? You're kind of limited to what your hotel options are, but this is a great one. Sebastian's Bistro is a decent restaurant. You don't have to feel when you're out of moderate or out of value like you're out in the middle of nowhere. And this is definitely one where you feel like you're right in the action.
My sister and her kids and my mom stayed there. I don't remember if my dad went with them on this trip or not, but they stayed in one of the Pirates of the Caribbean rooms.
Okay, yeah.
And my mom thought it was fun but weird. I don't know. Honestly, it's a big group of girls. I have 2 nieces, my sister, and my mom. That's why I don't remember if my dad was there. It's funny.
They stayed in the pirate theme rooms?
I don't think they requested it. I think they just kind of gave it to them.
That's funny. Oh, man.
If my sister's listening, you can tell me.
That's, I think that the other thing that I really do kind of rate this higher is that you're also kind of have dining options beyond just your resort.
Yeah.
Because it is a Skyliner ride away from Epcot, and also because it's not far away at all from the Riv. So going to the Riviera and getting food over there, it's not that far away because of the Skyliner, and because they share a spot or a stop.
They do.
On the Skyliner.
They do. And I'm going to talk about that later.
I mean, it's because it's one of the 2 stops, but yeah. Yep. So my number 5 is Caribbean Beach Resort. What about you?
Yeah, you may hear about that one a little bit later. My number 4 is a resort that we had a room booked for. We were all set to go. We had a Lion King suite.
Nice.
Yep. And unfortunately, we had it booked for the summer of 2020 when all of Disney closed. So we were not able to use that room that we had reserved. But we were so excited that we had that Lion King suite booked. So my number 4, and before I talk about it. I've been to this place. We've multiple times been there to visit. I love it, but we have not actually stayed in the room. But that is the Art of Animation. Is this also your number 4?
It is not, but it's certainly on my list.
Okay, all right. Then you can elaborate if you want to, but I have a lot to say. This one, this one was always kind of intrigued me from the get-go, just because it's the art of animation. I'm an art guy. My wife's an artist. My kids love to draw, so we were always kind of like, oh, that's going to be really cool. It's right up our alley. So we went and visited, and I just love it. In my opinion, and people may not like to hear this, I think it's the most Disney of all the resorts there.
I don't disagree.
Because everywhere it's so heavily Disney character themed. So if you have kids that love those characters, this is the place for you. So there is an entire area for Cars. There is an entire area for Nemo. There's an entire area that is Little Mermaid. That one's the furthest. And Lion King. And if you think of those 4 properties, there's something for everybody in those 4 properties.
Lots of different generations, too.
Yeah. Anyway, so we went, walked around the property. We've been there twice. And the food there, not the greatest. That's probably one of the negatives. The food wasn't that great. It's your typical quick service, hamburgers. It was fine. Anywhere, FYI, anyone with food allergies, anywhere you go on property, they'll make a gluten-free hamburger. It's great. Their pools are incredible. The Nemo pool is huge. I think it's one of the biggest ones on property, and they pump in music underwater, which I thought was pretty cool. Nick's shaking his head. I think he knew that too.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. But you know what? I truly wouldn't have a problem bringing my teens to this place, and I think they'd be okay with it too. But I don't know. It may get to the point where they don't want to go and they want to have fun at one of the other resorts, and maybe someday I'll have grandkids and we take the grandkids to that place. I don't know. We'll see. That's a little further in the future. What do you have for 4?
So my number 4 is Coronado Springs. This to me is essentially the most deluxe of the moderates, especially with the addition of the tower. And so when I think of Disney resorts that are special in their own kind of way, Coronado stands out for me among the moderates because of, it was kind of geared, or it still is kind of geared toward a lot of business travelers.
Yeah, there's one section that is, yeah.
So it will be quieter. It's not going to be as kid-centric, which, for some people might be a problem. Not that your kids won't feel, okay there. Not that you would feel like bad for your kids running around. But here's the thing, because there's so many business travelers that go there, or I shouldn't say still do, but so the conference center and stuff like that.
There's a convention center built in, or it connects to the restaurants and all the shopping area.
So to me, one of the benefits is when conventions are going on, that's a great place to be, because those conventions aren't for little kids. Those conventions are business conventions. Yep. So the pool is not going to be as packed as it would be when other places are at capacity. And I've got to tell you, the Grand Destino Tower is beautiful.
It is.
So I think it's a great place. It's kind of, so it's the Mexican style, right? But it's also Spanish style. It's
kind of interesting too. Yeah. And the reason I know that they're bringing in the Spanish style is the Gran Destino Tower takes its sort of visual influence from the Spanish artist Salvador Dali. Yeah, who is he's like a surrealist artist, and a lot of things are sort of dreamlike and very smooth and flowing lines. Mm-hmm. And for anybody that doesn't know, Walt Disney teamed up with Salvador Dali shortly before he passed away, and they came up with a concept for a cartoon short film. Mm-hmm. And then recently, I don't know exactly when, I'm going to guess maybe 10, 15 years ago, they actually found all of the storyboards for that, and they made Destino an actual movie. So if you haven't seen it, it's pretty cool. It's pretty incredible that they took everything out of the vault and sort of imagined Salvador and Walt Disney's vision. But the reason I say this, is if you see that cartoon and you go into the hotel, there's a lot of parallels between the two. And they actually have some artwork from that cartoon on a giant mural inside the Gran Destino Tower.
Yeah, so I do think there's a little bit of an identity crisis. Is it Mexican? Is it Spanish? But I think it's a great resort to unwind. And I'll throw in there that because it does cater to those business travelers a lot, the dining there is among the best for moderates as well.
Oh, we enjoyed that.
So I would say that Coronado Springs is something that is a resort for everybody, especially because they have like the junior suites there that sleep 6, which is hard to find in the value and moderates, like I mentioned.
Yeah.
Although I mentioned just now 2 in a row that have more than just the standard 4. But it's nice to know that you can get a room for 6 at Disney. So. Yep. Yeah, that's my number 4. We're moving on to number 3 now for you.
My number 3, we talked about a little bit earlier. So, I mean, our lists are going to be interesting. And listeners, we don't discuss these in advance, but we're going to kind of ping pong back and forth with a lot of these. And my number 3 was Caribbean Beach. So I'll kind of talk about my experience a little bit with Caribbean Beach. When we went there, we requested having a room that was close to the Skyliner. Now there's 2 different Skyliner stops. If you look at the way that Caribbean Beach is laid out, it's kind of long. It's like a vertical sort of place that goes around the little lake, the man-made lake that's in the middle. So you can be pretty far from all of the main dining and the pool area. You can be way down at like the southern end. But the benefit of the southern end, there's 2. One is one of the Skyliner stops is at the southern end. There's another Skyliner stop in between kind of where our room was and where the Riviera is. So the Riviera resorts can use the Skyliner.
Yeah, it's like a little hub right there.
It is. It's nice. Then the other benefit of staying kind of in that southern tip too is there's another it's kind of a quick service restaurant, but I can't remember what it is. I want to say Spyglass, but that's not the name of it. I don't know if you look it up or not, but we read before we went there that it was a hidden gem that a lot of people didn't know about, this little restaurant kind of at the bottom there of Caribbean Beach. And if you're staying there, I would recommend going there. It's a little further, but I mean, we were staying kind of up towards the top, so it was kind of a longer walk for us. But whenever we stay anywhere, we like to walk around and explore the resort.
Spyglass Grill.
Was I? Oh, I was right.
Yeah.
Weird. Okay.
You're shocked that you were right.
Well, I said it was something like Spyglass. I didn't know I actually got it correct. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, we requested to be at the top. So our room was actually kind of across the water from where Sebastian's Bistro and the pool and everything was. The quick service food in the main area there was pretty good. We could get tacos. Definitely not the greatest tacos we've ever had. There's a couple taco critics that we have that listen to this show.
Yeah.
So in no way are these the best tacos I've ever had, but they're at least tacos, period. There's a nice little gift shop inside. I don't know. We enjoyed our time. The pool's decent. Yeah. So number 3 for me was Caribbean Beach. And one of the biggest pluses with Caribbean Beach is having that Skyliner transportation. The room itself was okay. It was a little bit bigger than what we had at All Star Sports, but yeah, it was an okay room.
So I think that one thing that people forget when they book at Caribbean Beach is how massive it is, though.
It is. It's huge.
I think it's 1.4 miles around to go around that lake.
Yeah,
that's insane.
Yeah, but it was a fun little walk.
Good morning jog.
You don't want to do it at 2 p.m. in the 107 degree heat.
Yeah.
Anyway, what'd you have for 3?
So my number 3 is one I don't know if it's on your list, but I would argue it should be. And I'm now second guessing putting it where I put it at number 3, but Fort Wilderness cabins and campgrounds.
Yeah, it's funny. When I first did research for this, I saw that on the list, and I'm like, I don't really know much about this resort other than there's really great recreational activities to do.
Yeah.
So I didn't feel like I could speak on it enough. So feel free. It's not on my list, but it's not on my list because of I don't think it should be. Go ahead.
So first off, the cabins, they're great. And that's not really why I put this on my list. I didn't put this on my list because of the cabins, although the cabins are pretty cool. I put it on my list because it's a campground. You can camp at Walt Disney World. And honestly, like when you think about camping at a place like Walt Disney World, obviously you're probably you're saving money, okay? But what I think is so cool about the campgrounds is, I don't know if have you ever watched any of the videos at like Halloween or Christmas time?
Yeah.
People will pull in their RV and do full-blown decorations. They've got their inflatables up. It is so cool. And then you do like you ride around on your golf carts, and they do the golf cart parades and stuff like that. Never mind the fact that there's all the recreation there. Never mind the fact that you can, go to Hoop-de-Doo and you can do all that stuff. And you've got the horse riding.
Fishing.
Just the fact that you can sit there, walk through the campgrounds, and see people go all out with their decoration. I think it's such a cool idea. I also think it's a great way for people to go to Disney and not spend an arm and a leg. It's still not going to be cheap to go to Disney because you got to buy your tickets and whatever. But if you want to go to Disney on the cheap, or on the cheaper side, I should say, I guess, those cabins, they're a good deal. And if you have an RV, or if you have like a pop-up, or whatever you've got.
Even cheaper.
Yeah, even cheaper. And I think it's a really cool idea. I would love to do it just once, to say I've done it. Actually, like go down there and camp. Not necessarily in the cabins, but like go down there and camp. I think it'd be fun.
Well, in the very least, let's say you stay at any resort and you have a car rental and you drive over there and it's Halloween or Christmas and you drive around to look at all of the lights and the inflatables and all that stuff.
I think that is so cool personally. But, the campsites range from like $75 to like, I think it's $190 a night.
Not bad.
Depending on what you're talking about. And the cabins, they're a little bit more expensive. Obviously, you're looking at anywhere from like $350 to $550. But
I mean, you could probably
they're big
spend
cabins.
that amount renting a spot up in the Adirondacks, I bet, right? Maybe $75.
Yeah, I mean, not at like a state park, maybe at one that's...
Yeah, one of those.
Like a KOA or whatever.
Right.
Maybe.
I'm trying to think of what the big one is. The Old Forge camping resort. You ever been there?
Yeah, but it's not that you don't spend that.
Okay.
I wouldn't spend that.
You're
there.
my Adirondacks expert.
Yeah.
So
I wouldn't spend much.
you.
I wouldn't spend much more than $30 on a campsite.
Yeah. Well,
it's a campsite.
I'm just trying to compare to the
But
Disney prices
look,
here.
the reality is $75 for a campsite at Disney, and you have like all the stuff that comes with that resort. I think it's a hidden gem. I really do.
Yeah,
so
that's cool.
That's why I made my list. So.
Good call.
Yeah, Fort Wilderness.
My number 2 we stayed at last summer, so we did kind of a split stay where the majority of our trip we were at the Polynesian, and then we went to visit family in Orlando, and then we bumped back over and did a couple days at this resort because I've always wanted to try it. So we did 2 days at the Port Orleans Resort, which is actually... They consider it 2 different resorts. There's Riverside and there's French Quarter. So the Riverside is where we ended up staying, and it was really cool. I remember when I was there, Nick and his family had flown back, and I was sending him pictures because as you walk through the resort, they actually have kind of a man-made like bayou river kind of curving around in between all the rooms. It has a really cool vibe, and the food was okay. I was
excited. Did you eat at Boat Rights? Did you eat at Boat Rights?
I don't know. No,
That's the sit-down one.
We did not. We ate at the place called the Mill or something.
Yeah.
It's literally, and they build it to look like an old mill.
Yep.
The food there was okay. We had a bunch planned, so we really didn't have time to go in and do the sit-down place. The pool was fun. My son really enjoyed swimming in the pool. But it was, honestly, I thought it was better than I thought it was going to be. It's a nice little resort. It's very homey, and I enjoyed it. So I don't have a ton to say other than it was a nice stay. It was a good, moderate resort, and we didn't get over to the French Quarter area. We just didn't have time. We're only there for 2 days, so we didn't get over to that side. So for me, Port Orleans was my number 2.
Did you take any of the boats over to Disney Springs?
No.
Because aren't there boats from there to Disney Springs?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because it's kind of in that area. It's very close to Saratoga Springs is right nearby. They're all kind of connected by that waterway that goes over to Disney Springs there.
Cool. All right. So my number 2 is one we've already talked about, which is the theme today. We're kind of bouncing back and forth, but Art of Animation made it to my number 2.
Yeah.
For the exact reason that you talked about earlier, that it is the most Disney of Disney resorts.
Yeah, and now that you say that, I'm looking at my list. I mean, we could really shuffle these in any way. I mean, well, other than maybe one on mine. I mean, All Stars. The other 4 are really, really cool. All Stars, I would keep at 5, but I don't know. I could shuffle these around, and now that we're talking about them, like,
Art of Animation, just like
it's great.
Every time I see pictures of like family, friends, or family members who've gone down and they stay at Art of Animation, it's like, why can't I use my DVC points to have a couple nights to stay there?
I was just about to say, you should do like a short split stay there, but like you can't with your points, can you?
I mean, I could rent it out and then pay cash, but
do a day in those pools.
Yeah, and it's not even. I just think that like when you walk around, there is something to be said for the over the top theming at times, and I feel that resort does a good job of it. And another big reason why it's up there is the family suites. The family suites are really nice.
Mm-hmm. That's what we had booked at Lion King.
So my cousin actually stayed there a few years ago in one of the right before COVID. Stayed in one of the family suites, and man, like they had plenty of room. Like that's for a moderate resort, for a value resort to offer that size. Now I will say, and it needs to be said, is that it's a value resort, but Art of Animation is the most expensive of the value resorts.
Yeah.
It's borderline not value. It's borderline, going into that moderate price tag, especially the family suites.
I wonder if it changed too, because now the Skyliner has a stop right in between this resort and another resort that I will mention later.
Yeah. So the cool thing I think too is that when you go in there and you look around, and I know I make fun of you for it all the time when you talk about the height of stuff. You're 400-foot tall Ursula. But
I thought it was 500 feet.
Yeah, but in all honesty, like as a kid, I just think of like what that would be like to walk in and see. Right? As an adult, it's impressive, but like as a kid, it's just got to be so over. And like, if you're a Nemo person, or if you're a Little Mermaid person, or if you're a Cars person, like you said, there's so much going on in that resort. And the food's not stellar, but like
it's fast food.
Yeah, it's not horrible.
No.
If I were going, I love Lion King. When we've talked about my love of Lion King before, but I think the Cars area is so cool.
It is.
So, like the VW bug, or not bug, van.
Yep.
And like, I don't know. I think that the Cars area would be more calling to me. But so my number 2 is Art of Animation.
Yeah, I just think that's a great resort. And again, having the benefit of the Skyliner is also huge for transportation purposes.
Yeah.
It's cool. Yeah, so my number 1, you talked about earlier, and we had such a great experience there. And my number 1 was Coronado Springs. And there's a lot of people that don't like Coronado Springs, but we had exactly what you described earlier, was such a nice, relaxing experience. The only time that it was really kind of crazy is that main pool, the one that has the temple in the middle there.
Yep.
So the one time we went was fine. It was, crowded, but not too bad. And then the second time we went back, and I don't think you could pack another person in that pool. It was, and this was 2021, and there was still a lot of
COVID restrictions.
Yeah, there was. So it was tough to really get that many people in one place, and you can tell some of the lifeguards were a little nervous about that. But we honestly, it was just too crowded, and we had another smaller pool kind of over in our area, and we ended up spending some time there. My son ended up making a friend with a kid there, and they were playing in the pool and having a great time. But I want to mention a couple things about it that were not brought up earlier. And this I thought was really cool, is when we would go over to eat kind of I think it's called the Mercado, is the area where we would go over and eat. There was always like a guitar player playing like Mexican guitar songs, and they were so great. So there was always live music playing.
I did not know that.
And if you think about that, like a lot of Disney's really good at pumping in music places, right? But there was always a live guitar player.
Yeah, I mean, you really only get that kind of entertainment usually over at like a deluxe resort, like the ukulele player, you know, in Ohana or, you know, those kinds of things. So that's kind of cool they did that there. I didn't know that.
That's cool. Awesome. And my wife and I really enjoyed just kind of walking the grounds. And the tower is the tower. You know, there's only a certain place you can go in Destino Tower, but you can take a walk around the property, and it's really nice. And the place where, again, we requested a room right near the front, so we didn't have a super long walk. But it's a big resort, but it's not a big resort in the same way that Caribbean Beach, you can walk like a mile. This one's probably a mile, but it's a loop, and in the middle, there's a bridge where you can kind of cut through, so you don't literally have to walk a mile around the loop to get to all the rooms, so that's kind of handy.
Were you there when that restaurant was open on the bridge?
Yes. Yeah, that was open too. We didn't go there. We did eat at the restaurants in that building that's kind of connected to the Destino Tower.
Yeah.
You really didn't notice a lot of people going in and out of the convention center. But boy, those rooms over there, I think it's like there's like 3 stories of rooms over there. They're really nice. So, yeah, I know they put a lot of effort into Coronado Springs the last couple of years and did that big refurb and added the tower, but it's really nice. So at this point, Coronado Springs ends up being my number one. I really enjoyed it.
You know, you're not going to be the only one. A lot of people commented when I posted stuff last week about like, what's your favorite resort? And we hadn't totally decided that we were doing a 2-part episode yet. So people were giving me everything, values, deluxe.
Coronado was their number one overall?
I had a lot of people say Coronado Springs for all the same reasons we've just mentioned.
That's great.
And some people said they liked that they did like the fact that it was a little bit had an identity crisis. Is it Mexican? Is it Spanish?
Yeah.
And some people said that they actually preferred that. They thought it was kind of cool. So
because they're representing more cultures.
Yeah, you're not the only one who's going to put that high.
Yeah, I liked it.
So my number one we've also already talked about, but you actually had it at number 2. I'm putting it at number 1, and that's Port Orleans. And we did we both did the same thing in that we lumped Port Orleans together with Riverside and French Quarter.
Right. I just haven't been over to French Quarter, but it looks gorgeous.
I'm more talking about Riverside when I do this, when I say this, but that's just because I personally like the aesthetic there, the old like plantation style.
Yeah.
Just to me, so I love, one of my favorite cities is Savannah.
It does have that feel.
And Port Orleans, Riverside has that very, you've got the
Spanish moss.
The Spanish moss, and you've got the live oaks.
Yep.
To me, I think it's a very cool place, and it's quiet, it's relaxing. It is spread out, I will say that. Boatwrights has turned around. It was not very good, and it has turned around. That's their table service there. I think it's great because of its proximity to Disney Springs and the fact that you can, take, are they called friendship boats over there? I can't remember, but that you can take one of those boats over. It's just a great place to relax. I can see myself wanting to stay there, even though I'm a DVC owner. I could see that being one of the places where I would be like, I'm going to rent my points out.
Yeah, and try to stay a night or two.
I'm going to pay cash, stay there. It was the place that we were going to stay until I found out that I could stay at Poly for the same price if I rented. But I love it. It's one of the ones that has, sleeps 5, which is a big deal. If you have 3 kids, or I look for sleeping 5 because what it means is there's 3 sleep surfaces. So whenever I see 5, I don't even think about it as a 5, but like my daughter is an aggressive sleeper. And so like putting her in the same bed with her brother, she's going to beat him up. Like she's aggressive. I speak from experience of like getting punched in the face in the middle of the night when she will crawl in bed.
I've had similar experiences with my kids.
So when I see something that sleeps 5, it tells me, okay, well, there's 3 sleep surfaces. And that to me is more what I'm looking for. But if you have a family of 5, it's good to have this because you don't have to stay in, the Art of Animation family suite. Although I would recommend doing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Port Orleans, I just like the vibe. The pictures you sent me sold me even more on it because I don't know why I didn't realize like the man-made like river.
Bayou or whatever it is. It's cool.
I just like those plantation style buildings. I love live oaks with Spanish moss hanging. It just brings me to a whole other place. And I don't know. I think it's a great resort.
A great resort.
Yeah. So that's my number 1. Do you have any honorable mentions? We talked about pretty much every one of them.
I have a dishonorable mention.
Oh, okay. Let's do it. Let's make people mad.
I don't like Pop Century at all. At all. So I toured Pop Century when we went to see Art of Animation. And for our listeners, they are kind of brother-sister resorts. They're connected via a bridge, and in the middle is the Skyliner. So Pop Century is a resort that focuses on decades and what was popular during those decades. And as we walked over there, I was intrigued. I'd kind of seen pictures and I knew sort of what to expect. And I walk in the middle and it's 2 buildings and it looks like graphics from the Austin Powers movie that were just
the 60s.
Cut out of pieces of plywood and just stuck to the side of a motel. And they had like these dancers. I don't know. And I'm sure there's people yelling and swearing at the podcast right now, but I do not like it. It was super cheesy. And it's not somewhere I want to spend that kind of money and walk out and feel like I'm in an Austin Powers movie. I just thought it was really cheesy. I did not like it at all. It's not even close to making my list.
Do you think that it would make your list if the Legendary years had been built?
Maybe.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know that was supposed to be the other side. You can go ahead and give the history.
No,
on that.
I was just saying like it was supposed to have like the classic years, which is what we got, 1950 to 1999.
Yeah,
and
then Art of Animation was supposed to be before that.
Legendary years was 1900 to 1949. Yeah. I think that actually would be cool.
Yeah, could be.
Cooler than, like you say, Austin Powers wallpaper.
Ugh.
It's
flowers and I don't know.
I'm with you on this.
Not my thing.
I don't get Pop Century. I also don't really see how that is even remotely Disney.
No. There's one positive, a mini positive. When you walk into the lobby there, they have all these records and all these things on the walls through the decades, and they had like this autographed Kiss record, and like that was kind of cool to see. But that took me a total of 10 minutes to look at all that stuff, and then I was like, okay, I'm done. That's it.
Yeah, I personally have zero desire to stay at Pop Century. And there's going to be some people mad because some people did post that, oh, I like Pop Century. Think about it. You have Skyliner, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, cool. I still don't want to stay there.
No.
Give me Art of Animation, but this place, I don't get it.
Not my thing.
No. And honestly, for me, I just don't understand the attraction. You know what I mean? Like, I don't get why you're going to spend that money on Disney, why you would want to stay at Pop Century and not.
If you're a listener and you don't hate us and haven't already thrown your phone across the room or whatever, tell us why you like it. Maybe there's something we're missing.
Yeah, I mean,
let us know. And I know there's people that love it.
Yeah, I don't dislike theming that the idea. I don't dislike the idea of the theme. I think it's poorly executed.
Well, and I'm sure there were people listening going, All Stars are stupid, you're crazy, who the heck cares about a football field?
You don't have to go as far as a listener. You can look across the desk.
Yeah, right.
I think the All Stars are horrible, but that's me.
We enjoyed it, but my kids were really young, and they thought it was awesome. It was the first resort they went to.
Yeah, I mean,
it's on my list, but
that's just it, too.
I don't hate it.
Is like, it was the first one you went to, so there's some nostalgia there. I get that. I totally do. I don't really have anything that I really honorable mentions or anything like you
Well,
like.
the resort list is pretty limited to begin with.
Yeah,
There's only 7 on the list, I think.
There's 10.
Is there?
There are 5 moderates and 5 values.
What did we not say?
So we talked about Caribbean Beach Resort.
Yep.
We talked about Coronado Springs.
Yep.
You got Port Orleans is technically 2. We merged into
Oh,
1.
gotcha. So that brings it to
We talked
Okay.
about Fort Wilderness.
Yep.
Then you've got the All Stars. There's 3 of those.
Oh,
You've got
right. I lumped those together, kind of.
Art of Animation and Pop Century.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, for me and my family, I would stay at probably the 5 on my list, and that would be it. But with DVC, I mean, it doesn't make sense, obviously. The one thing, like I said, the bucket list, man, is I want to stay at the campgrounds, and I want to do it at Christmas or Halloween when they're doing stuff. So
That's cool.
But yeah,
We might have to be retired by that point.
yeah, we probably will.
Getting
be.
time off at Halloween is going to be hard. Christmas you could do. I've been there at Christmas.
It's
not there, but to Disney at
people
Christmas.
are booking that stuff up so quickly. But yeah, it's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow, and tomorrow is just a list away.
Tune in next time, and we'll see you real soon.